You know what would be crazy? Imagine if there was a button that you can push that magically made an extra $5,000 appear in your bank account every time you pushed it. For some people, this wasn't just an imagination, this was their reality. How were they able to do this? Today, we're going to find out. Creating an app or software that's high in demand and charging hundreds of dollars for each person that uses said software is a dream scenario for any entrepreneurial developer. Because unlike businesses that sell physical products, it doesn't cost any money to generate a license key and sell it to a willing customer. SNEAKERBOT developers have tens of thousands of people, maybe even hundreds of thousands who are willing to pay anywhere between $300 to $500 retail price for bots. After all, if you're a bot developer, then the more sales you make, the more money that goes into your pockets. That's why when I first got into botting back in 2018, I've always found it both very strange and fascinating that 95% of SNEAKERBOTs were quote-unquote sold out. How is it even possible for you to sell out of a software that you download? In fact, you would never see this sold out message change. The only time you could maybe see this change is if one of the bots did a public restock, which they did maybe twice a year, where they would sell out instantly, even faster than the sneaker releases that you'd use these bots for. Also, bot companies that conducted these public restocks did do a somewhat decent job in making sure they weren't botted. People are just fast. Out of the tens of thousands of people trying to buy for retail price, only about 10 to 50 of them would be fast and lucky enough to be able to actually check out for each public restock. Why did the developers of SNEAKERBOTs do it this way? As with any product that has way less supply than there is demand, the SNEAKERBOTs themselves had resale prices that would often be over 10 times its retail price. As a result, something very interesting happened. The main reason why anyone would buy a SNEAKERBOT is to use it to help them buy sneakers. But the bots themselves became somewhat of a commodity. Some people even use the bots as currency, where a bot license key is used to purchase physical goods. Since the SNEAKERBOT secondary market was relatively stable at the time, buying them for exorbitant prices is something that could have been considered to be low risk. Take the following scenario for example. It is absolutely possible for someone to have bought Cybersoul for $2,500. Let's say they tried out botting for a few months, doesn't work for them, and they want out of the botting game. They don't lose $2,500 because they would most likely be able to sell it back to someone else for the same price. Or it was also very possible that they actually make money on just owning the bot, because it was actually very common for bot prices to go up over a period of time. In fact, around 2019 to 2020, there were entire communities that just did this all day long. Pay resale price for bots, sometimes they wouldn't even use them. Then they just wait for prices to go up and then sell them for an even higher price, almost like trading stocks. With us, we have Kufsi, who owned one of the most successful bot flipping groups back in the day called Radar Flips, and he's going to tell us how he was able to tell if a bot's price was going to go up.
Back then, price was all about hype, so it's just showing off some updates that they have coming. They could say they're adding a new site or something, post it on Twitter, make a cool video, and then usually when bots do that, they usually let my group, there was other big bot flipping groups as well. They usually let the owners and stuff know that they're gonna post and stuff, and when the update is coming, etc, etc, and they just post on Twitter and raise hype, do a giveaway or something. That's pretty much how it was they would raise the prices artificially.
Yeah, so they didn't even actually need the success. They just post a nice cool looking video and then the price will pump.
Yeah, and that's pretty much most of the bot updates went back then. It was mostly majority, it was just a UI change, and then the prices would go up by 1,000 right after the video was posted.
But what's interesting is that when these bot developers would do public restocks, their retail prices would only be about $200 to $400 per license key, but the resale prices could range anywhere between $2,000 to $8,000. That means that anyone had the opportunity to buy a bot for, let's say, $300 and then sell it on the secondary market immediately for $7,000. This whole process could be done in less than a minute. Although the competition was fierce, who wouldn't want to participate in an event like that? The scarcity and difficulty of buying bots for retail price would incentivize anyone in the community to follow all the bot social media accounts of each bot to ensure that they won't miss a restock, since these would be one of the main methods to participate in an event, which is basically a risk-free way to make thousands of dollars within a matter of minutes. Therefore, bot companies can grow their social media following, members of the community can make thousands of dollars either using or outright selling the bot, and developers would also make money from selling the license keys. It was a very exciting and interesting time in the sneaker botting world. Maintaining a sneaker bot to be in tip-top shape is a 24/7 job, and the amount of pressure to outperform all the time is beyond my comprehension. You have possibly thousands of people sinking unbelievable amounts of money into proxies and servers to use alongside your bot. And if your bot flops, congratulations, you are responsible for the loss of possibly tens of thousands of dollars, which inevitably leads to customers berating you and trash talking the software that you dedicate every waking hour to. So if anyone were to work a 24/7 job with these unrealistic expectations, it would only make sense for them to try to get paid as much as possible. But from the outside, it really didn't seem like this was what they were trying to do, since their product was always sold out. Why would they do that to themselves, and what exactly is going on here? So I consulted with Lucas. Lucas is the owner of Cybersoul, one of the most successful sneaker bot companies of all time.
When botting first started becoming popular, the idea was to limit the amount of users that would run the bot to assure that current users had the highest possible chance at securing their desired item. I think it was also important to limit the intake of users, as we weren't prepared as a business to handle the massive influx that would have occurred if we were constantly in stock. However, towards the end of this period, these didn't really apply anymore, especially as there was so much competition and the playing field was more level. No one really adapted and continued to limit the amount of copies. I'd say there were two main reasons. One, moving to an always in stock model would have been seen as either an exit scam, money grab, or indication that the product no longer performed well. I find it stupid, but that's just how this community perceives any business-first decision, unfortunately. Then again, we're all resellers, and naturally if something doesn't sell out, it doesn't interest us anymore. Two, keeping copies limited kept resale prices high. While we never purposefully drove the prices up, we definitely didn't mind keeping it there. This especially kept the hype and demand up for the brand.
Does the user base count have any effect on its performance?
As mentioned in the last question, it did at the beginning, but now that anyone who wants a bot will just either buy a competitor's product or buy on a third-party marketplace, it doesn't really anymore. We've also learned how to scale our systems and resources to accommodate larger user bases over the years.
Now, there was a rumor that Cybersoul staff got paid in license keys. Is this true?
Yes, this is true. I started doing this at the very start of running the business, as it allowed to keep expenses down. We mainly paid customer service in keys and also distributed bonuses in keys. The amount varied based on performance of each, and worked well during the first few years, as it also motivated staff to make the product as best as possible, as this naturally drove the resale price up and in turn increased their salary.
So the idea of getting paid in bot license keys is very similar to stock-based compensation. If you're not familiar with the term, it is when employees get paid with a company's stocks. A stock's dollar value is often linked to the performance of the company. So if the company performs well, the stock price goes up. And in theory, this motivates employees to work as hard as possible so that the value of the stocks they're given on a regular basis goes up in price. Since bots have their own secondary market, where performance of the bot is linked to the resale price of the bot, then the staff working with bot companies would be more incentivized to do everything they can to ensure that the bot performs as best as possible. Now that we have that context, limiting the number of sales actually does make a lot of sense for most of these companies. And as a result, they literally had the ability to press a button and generate a license key and sell it on the secondary market for whatever the bot was going for. That's basically like being able to press a button and have an authentic Off-White Air Max shoe appear out of thin air. And you can just sell it right away on StockX. Back at the peak of botting, have you ever thought to yourself, I can literally just print money by pressing the generate license key button? What's that like for you?
Yes, that idea was definitely present and at times very tempting. However, abusing it would have made it worthless. Similar to what happened when an abundance of competitors pops up every month.
Bot developers that are able to outperform their competition deserve to be well paid and appropriately rewarded. Although many long-standing bot company owners such as Lucas, Jason, and Philippe provided value for their customers by implementing what I would describe as sustainable code into their bot, there were other bot company owners that acted in more nefarious ways in order to take full advantage of this crazy, unregulated market at the expense of customers. Instead of selling their bot on the open secondary market, sometimes companies would make deals with people under the table, also known as backdooring. This allows bot developers to do a few things. Number one, they can sell a set number of license keys without it immediately affecting the secondary market, because let's take my example earlier. If someone were to dump 40 off-white Air Maxes on StockX, there's a chance that resale price will be negatively affected. But if you backdoor it instead, but charge market price, it will go directly to buyers. Some of these buyers will use it, some of them might wait for the price to go up, some of them might try to sell it right away in the secondary market, except for maybe a little bit higher than what they paid for, but ultimately the market prices won't immediately go down. And number two, this also gives developers the convenience of selling license keys to a lot of willing customers all in one go. When you advise your group to buy a certain bot because you know the prices are going to go up, would you mostly tell them to buy in the open market, or would they be backdoor deals?
Most of the time it would be backdoors. Sometimes like some bots wouldn't backdoor and stuff, so it'd just be like from the open market. It's like a 70-30 split, I would say. 70% backdoors, 30% from the market.
Have you ever been paid to like facilitate any backdoor transactions? But let's say I pay you like a certain amount to do a backdoor transaction. Have you ever accepted any of those payments, or have you ever been offered any of those payments?
I've been offered, but I've never like accepted like, okay, I'll backdoor your bot to my members and I'll receive X amount of commission. I've never done that. I've been offered, yes, but usually when I do backdoors, the members, they would get a set amount of copies, like 1 or 2 per person, but like the owners would like myself to purchase as many as I wanted.
Now, the act of backdooring in of itself isn't malicious, but it can be. During the peak of COVID, new bots were popping up left, right, and center, each backed with tons of hype and virtually unlimited demand. There were many bots with market prices over $4,000, and every botter was trying to look for the next best thing. Because around this time, if you maneuvered correctly, you could make a few hundred to a few $1,000s, if you're really good that is, per sneaker release. And there were releases almost every day. So if you got an effective bot that's consistent even for a few months, you can make a lot of money, and maybe even make money from reselling the bot once you're done with it. Also, during this time period, we saw a number of bots go from a few $100s in resale price to several $1,000s, and people were trying to get in before prices pumped. It honestly wasn't too different from all these crypto coins and NFTs popping up, and everyone trying to chase the next big investment. As you can imagine, a lot of people got burned. There was a period in the botting scene that I would describe as the bypass era. A bypass was typically a way to check out from a sneaker website that completely ignored almost all anti-bot measures. Finding something like this is extremely difficult. So, some bot companies even purchase bypasses from other developers that were able to find them. And if you're able to integrate something like this into your bot, it's likely that your user base will be swimming in sneakers, with each user being able to easily buy over 100 pairs of whatever shoe, while leaving everyone else in the dust. And the resale prices of the bots who implemented these bypasses went parabolic. But here's a catch with these bypasses. The bypasses typically last for only one release. Sometimes the bypass doesn't even last for the whole drop. Do you see yet where the problem lies? So basically, the price of the bot goes up after they use the bypass, which means the bypass will more than likely no longer work after that one time. But botters are buying the bot in hopes that the bypass does still work. But that's almost never the case. You see, the following scenario could be totally possible. You make a bot company, Bring on a developer or two, which will be your partners in the business. Hire some designers to make the UI and website of your bot, along with social media graphics. Do some giveaways with some other companies in the botting scene for some brand awareness. Tweet out some cryptic emojis. Announce a free beta so that you can get people to use your bot. Hopefully your developers are competent enough so that your user base can get at least a few checkouts. Use those few checkouts to advertise proof of concept, and that way you can actually start charging money for your bot. And then buy a bypass for $30,000. When the next profitable drop comes around, you implement the bypass. Your existing user base that you've amassed so far will be rewarded handsomely for sticking around, and they get lots of checkouts. They're gonna post success, you're gonna post their success, and then your bot is going to get a whole lot of attention. As a result, resale price for your bot goes to $5,000, and from there, you only need to sell 6 copies at market price to be able to recoup the money that you spent on the bypass. But if you do a backdoor group buy, then getting a lot of sales is something that would be a piece of cake. You can even do multiple backdoor group buys with multiple communities. 30 sales would net you $150,000, 50 sales would net you $250,000, and 100 sales can net you $500,000. Again, there isn't anything inherently wrong with doing these backdoor deals, but people were buying these bots after the bot has peaked in performance due to a bypass, which means it's only down from there. For the people that bought in, that is. Not the bot owners, obviously. At least that's how I saw it from an outsider. Although the bypasses typically only lasted for one drop, most developers still tried to maintain their bot. Users were able to get a somewhat decent amount of checkouts, typically in line with the rest of their competitors, but not anywhere near the performance of a bypass. Despite that, prices for these bots were still somewhat inflated. My guess is because people were clinging onto the chance that the bot will find and apply another bypass. But as I said earlier, that almost never came true. Not only that, but some of these bot companies closed down altogether, meaning that most people who purchased some of these bots for $5,000 to $8,000 kind of just saw their money disappear. Have you ever seen any repercussions for sneaker bots that sold their products, sometimes for exorbitant prices, just for their developers to abandon the project? Any repercussions at all for these people?
No, not that I can think of.
They just walk away with a fat stack of cash and just lie to their customers?
I mean, nothing's ever really happened to anyone. You can like hate them all you want on Twitter, but like, what can you really do?
Fortunately, things like these don't happen too often in the present day anymore. With an overall decline in sneaker botting, bots have to actually be very consistent with their results just to retain their customers. Furthermore, many of them switch to a waitlist model so they can bring in new customers faster. Bots nowadays in the secondary market are quite affordable. And that's why I feel that nowadays the playing field is quite leveled now, and your success rate, in theory, will mostly be determined by your skill and your know-how. And I feel like that's something that's healthy for the botting ecosystem, and that's something that I'm totally okay with. Were any of you guys affected by this madness? How much money did you make? How much did you lose? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to read your stories.